My family all says I am being an idiot for this, but I think they are just too non-confrontational. But I will leave it to the internet to decide, so here is the story. Back around 9 years ago, my cousin got married to his high school sweetheart after she graduated from community college. They had been living together, and my cousin did not go to college as he was supporting her through college. She is accepted into a school in no fault state, so off they move. They have a child which he takes care of and works nights to send his wife to school. In her final years, she gets a job in her field under one of her professors. Right after graduation, she tells him that she wants a divorce. She has been sleeping with her boss and professor for 2 years, and now that she is no longer her teacher, he is leaving his wife and they are getting married, ending their 7-year marriage. I was not informed of any of this to call her out at the time. I was never actually told of the divorce, just my parents told me to save the date for same cousin's marriage, then they told me what went down. So comes our story. Cousin was having a rough time of it after the divorce, but eventually ran into his middle school crush. They hit it off. They invite family to the second wedding, and put an engagement announcement on Facebook. Which ex-wife sees the announcement and post, "He is such a bad father, he did not even ask his child if it was okay for him to get married again, how will this affect her?" So I responded in a PM, "Did you ask kid's name, if it was okay with them? If you cheated on daddy and slept with your boss, then divorce daddy. How do you think that will affect her?" Family is mad when she contacted them. Am I the idiot? Ash. She should keep her mouth shut about this particular thing, unless she wants people calling her on her obvious hypocrisy. However, it was not your place to do so. It was, and continues to be, none of your business. Is she a skeevy attention seeker who cries every time she is confronted with the consequences of her own actions? Seems like it. But your cousin still has to co-parent with this woman, and you potentially made that exponentially more difficult for him. At the very least, you could have asked him about it first. I get that it feels good to call someone out on their crap, especially when they are deserving and have hurt someone that you love. But there are better ways to support your cousin and his child during this time. I think both sides have a point. You think she should be called out, and you're right, she's mad. But your family is also right that extra drama and picking fights won't help anyone. If this had been your life and ex, I'd say not the idiot. Ultimately, however, I think the most important thing is, did you consider your cousin's feelings in this? He's the one affected, not you. Do you feel he'd appreciate, or like what you did, or have you possibly made his life more difficult with your actions? Because that's a real possibility. She is still the child's mother with rights. In the end, this isn't about you. You should talk to your cousin, and ask how he feels and apologize if you troubled him. Not the idiot. Well, you are a bit, but I don't think nearly enough in this case, and why being an idiot would be such a bad thing in this instance. Word me, I would have posted it to her own face page, repeatedly, until she blocked you. I would have then plastered it across her LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, all her social media until she blocked you there too. I would have then plastered it across her new husband's Facebook, repeat in nauseam. Repeat, but on college's main website, asking if this was appropriate behavior for their staff to engage in, sleeping with students while under his care. My brother, 30, had a truck accident that left him paralyzed in 2019. His wife, my sister-in-law, takes care of him, although she complains all the time about normal stuff like him getting a fever, throwing up, needing help with feeding, sleeping, etc. Basically normal and basic needs for a disabled person. She also violates his privacy and posts private stuff about him all the time. She showed up at my place and dropped my brother and his stuff off, saying she was going on a 4-week vacation with her girlfriends to let off some steam and relax. I was so mad. I'm a new mother, and my hands are full already. She went on about how selfish I was, and then went on about how much she deserved this vacation, but one can never take time off from responsibilities, right? I had no choice but to take him in. He looked depressed and just sad. I know he felt like a burden, and I feel sorry for him. And clearly his wife hasn't been taking good care of him, because now he's at the hospital getting treated for an infection. I left her a message, but she saw it and didn't care enough to come back when her husband's in the hospital. Instead, I saw that she posted a video of her and her girlfriends dancing to loud music at some resort 2 hours later. I felt awful and so sorry for my brother. I can't imagine reading that my husband's in the hospital and not care to even call to check in on him. I sent a message calling her cruel and selfish. She saw it and called me yelling, calling me a judgmental and ranting about how I ruined her much needed vacation and spoiled her good time with her girlfriends. She then let her family come at me, accusing me of harassing their daughter despite knowing their son-in-law is in the hospital. They told me off and said he has doctors and nurses to help, and that their daughter's vacation didn't deserve to be ruined because she needed it, and said that she's not my brother's personal nurse, and I should step up instead of judging her. Now they're pressuring me to apologize once she returns, but I refused. Ash. Did anyone step up in 3 years to help her? Anyone? She sounds like she has caregiver burnout and is also depressed and frustrated. You for commenting on how she complains. It's called venting, and since no one seems to step up and give her a break, that is all she has. And for saying no one gets time off from responsibilities, when the reality is that she is not obligated to be her husband's full-time caregiver. She can do so willingly, but in the end, she doesn't have to stay, and acting like she has to stay is not okay. Her for dropping him off without clearance, and also for not responding when there was a problem. She needed to clear this well beforehand. Not the idiot. I feel like people are completely missing the part where she dropped him off with zero preparation on your part. That is neglect and abandonment. If she can afford a month-long vacation, she can afford to pay someone who is trained in caring for disabled people. Yes, caregivers need a break, but that doesn't mean you just throw your responsibility onto the first sibling you see. She needs to grow a pair and just get divorced if she cannot be caregiver. It's a difficult situation, but all she is doing is putting her husband in a position where he is receiving lackluster care and feeling like a burden. Let me see if I got this right. Your sister-in-law abandoned your disabled brother on your doorstep and is now annoyed because you called her out on it. And she's gone for 4 weeks. And you have a newborn to care for. Do I have this right? In this case, abandon means not checking for permission first. I realize that caring for a disabled person is anything but fun or easy. But taking 4 weeks off without making arrangements for his care. I would have a whole bunch words to say to her and her family that would likely get me banned here. Suffice it to, you have no apology to make. You are not the idiot. I, 27F, have 2 sons. My oldest is 6, and my youngest is 2. My sister, 31F, has 2 daughters ages 9 and 7. Up until a year and a half ago we lived in different states. Then she moved back, and I started spending some more time with my nieces, and it was horrible. First time, took all the kids to McDonald's, and the oldest threw a fit because she didn't get the toy she wanted. She was yelling and saying I needed to buy her another meal to get her the toy. She tantrumed all the way back to my sister's house. During this the youngest kept throwing food too, and wouldn't stop when told to. Second time, my sister and I took the kids to the zoo. The youngest spat in my oldest's ice cream because he got the last of the flavor she wanted. My sister made very little deal out of it and shrugged it off. The oldest told my oldest that's the reason you give them what they want. Third time, was going shopping. Sister asked me to take the girls for the afternoon because things came up, had them in the car, and they both threw a fit because they didn't want to go grocery shopping, and then they kept kicking the cart when I was going around. The youngest tried to break something so we would be made to leave. I stepped into discipline many times and got told I was not their mom, and they didn't have to listen to me. I ended up dropping them back with their dad. Fourth time. Brought all 4 kids to the park, and they didn't want to stay because they thought we were going to a water park. They did everything they could to ruin my oldest having fun, and then when I pulled them back and said, if they couldn't play nice or entertain themselves, which I tried to get them to do, they would run in different directions and yell. So we left after less than half an hour. Final time, they were at my house, so my sister and her husband could have a date night. They wouldn't eat the food I prepared, nuggets and fries, because they wanted pizza. They didn't want apple pie, they wanted chocolate cake for dessert. They were spitting in everyone else's food and throwing it on the floor. I got the same attitude when giving discipline, and they started yelling when they weren't getting their way. This lasted all night. They wouldn't go to bed. Didn't sleep. Woke both my kids up. Each time I sat and spoke to my sister, and she seemed to take it seriously, especially after I pointed it out after the zoo incident, and then the last time she shrugged it off as kids will be kids. And I told her, if that's how they behave then I'm not going to have them in my home, or take them anywhere. She said that was fine. Then after she returned to work post-lockdown she asked me to help out in a few emergencies which I said no to, and she called me an idiot for not helping. But the way they behave I am not willing to sign up for that. Especially if she's going to shrug it off. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. That is feral. Assuming they're neurotypical, I truly don't understand how your sister and her husband aren't deeply alarmed. If your kids spend too much time with them, there's virtually no way it won't cause them to develop issues. They're already getting bullied. Your sister has the right to raise, or not, her kids however she wants, and you have the right to do the same. If her parenting is negatively impacting yours, then drawing a line is perfectly fair. She can't get mad. Respect for each other's lifestyles cuts both ways. I would hold extremely firm on it. If I were you, and only restore her babysitting privileges. If you see actual change, not just hear promises about it. Not the idiot. Nope. My God, how on earth are these vile kids allowed out anywhere? They sound like horrible, obnoxious bullies. I get kids will be kids, but that's when they do something like draw on their face, or accidentally wee on your leg because they're potty training and forgot they're not in a nappy. If a kid tried spitting in another person's food near me, I would have packed them in the car and dropped them wherever the parents are. Your sister doesn't need a babysitter, she needs a social worker and a smack, and her kids need to learn some manners now, or secondary or high school and adulthood are gonna be a real shock. I used to get dropped off with cousins, and later their kids at my grandparents all the time. My cousins' kids were absolutely terrible to me and my little brother, punching, kicking us in the groin, because it was funny, then literally spitting at us and laughing in our faces, because who would believe us that a 6 and 9-year-old were doing that to older kids? Freaking disgusting. And I don't talk to those cousins or their kids to this day. I'm almost 40. You're subjecting your kids to that abuse, of you and them, and it will have lasting impacts. Just because she's your sister doesn't mean she gets a pass to be a liar, pretending to care, or for her terrible spawn. Not the idiot. I, 37F, have two sisters, Roxanne, 34, and Libby, 22. When we were 25, 22 and 10, my dad sadly passed away. Around that time, my mom became very anxious about what would happen to Libby if something happened to her. She had my aunt as a potential guardian, but she is located pretty far away from us, and it would have meant uprooting Libby. She approached me and Roxanne, and asked if one or both of us would be willing to take custody of Libby, with help from my aunt. Roxanne immediately said no, which was understandable as she was in her early 20s. I said yes as I was more established. A few years later, my mom passed due to cancer, and I became Libby's guardian. Mom left me the house entirely, and split her savings into some for me and some for a college fund for Libby. Her jewelry was split evenly amongst me, Libby and Roxanne. Libby got into college, and her fund was enough to cover the tuition, but not living expenses. I reached out to Roxanne to ask if she could help. She is very well off due to her profession and having no debt from my parents paying for her college. She said no. Okay, fair enough. However, she got incredibly angry with me, that I would ask, after inheriting everything, and told me I was greedy and money hungry. I pointed out that the house was to ensure Libby got to stay where she grew up, and the money mom left me was meant to help with related expenses. She told me never to ask her for money again, called Libby a bunch of nasty names, saying she always hated her, that Libby was the favorite child, that she, Roxanne, got neglected after Libby was born. Not true. She cut us off after that. About 4 years have passed since then. Recently she reached out, asking if we could talk, and I said no. I am perfectly happy without her. Libby is doing well, my aunt, and I split the expenses to get her through college. It was definitely a bit hard for us, but worth it. However, Roxanne has been telling our aunt that we're excluding her, that she wants a relationship, and aunt has been telling us that forgiveness is good, family is important and all that. I just don't need the bad vibes. I'd for not accepting this olive branch. No idiots here. Fair enough you're not happy after she crap on your little sister, I wouldn't be either. But is there a chance that she's struggling with losing both parents at quite a young age? Middle children tend to feel like they don't get as much attention no matter what their age. Maybe she has sorted herself out and realized that she has been an idiot in the past, and maybe wants to sort things out after realizing everything was left to you for a reason, and to ensure the youngest had the best start to adulthood as possible. 100% agree it's awful what she has said and done, but there could be a chance she's struggling on her own, and took her rage out on you too. I could be completely wrong though. No idiots here, but verging closer you being the idiot. Frankly, I don't understand the way the inheritance was divided. Why were you given the house outright, while Laura only received some jewelry? Depending on where the house is located, that could be an extremely valuable asset. How many years were you else guardian? Do you really think it's fair you got the house? I can understand wanting to keep it in the family, but why not give an interest to all three of you, so you could sell it when you are ready? You mentioned in other comments that R should be happy that her education was paid for, but was yours. L's was as well, so that seems to be par for the course in your family. Not the idiot even a little bit. However, can I just suggest from my own experiences that maybe it's worth perhaps just trying once? It could be she's trying to ask you for something. Or it could be she has news you need to hear, or it could be she is genuinely remorseful. If you at least talk to her via phone or Skype, keep Libby pit of it for now, until you know what's what, then you can make a properly informed decision. It doesn't hurt to try, because it does seem as though up until that one huge incident you guys were kind of okay. I don't know, I just think life is too short as it is, and being absolutely sure one way or another of her motives isn't a bad thing.